So this affects all of you, this cross-sectional view, all right? So if we look at this box, okay, what you need to do is a 3D view. Now you'll notice on here I have labelled that pictorial view, all right? So when you see a 3D view of a product, all right, it's called a pictorial view, whether you draw it in isometric or whether you draw it in oblique. If it's 3D and looking pretty, it's pictorial, all right, because it's a picture, okay? So you draw a 3D pictorial view of it. Very bad drawing done by me with a pen yesterday, okay? Then you imagine you've sliced it through on the bandsaw, all right? So if I slice this box through on the bandsaw, what would you see? Okay, so it would still be a rectangle, okay? So you can see it's still a rectangle, but you can see the thickness of these two end pieces of wood there, and you can see the thickness of the bottom, which is quite thin because it's just a piece of MDF. Yeah. Now you can still see a line across the top there. You can still see that line there, because if I sliced that through and looked at it from that direction, you'd still be able to see that back edge. Right, that line doesn't disappear. All right, so you'd see the thickness of that material, and the thickness of that material, and the thickness of the bottom. All right. So that's that one. So any surface that's been cut, see the notes down the side, you put them 45-degree lines across. Because anybody looking at your cross-sectional drawing knows that that's a cut edge, because that means cut edge. If you had a drawing board out, those would have to be done with a 45-degree set square. They're at 45 degrees. But when we're sketching, we just kind of guess 45 degrees, all right? So two different pieces of material, that piece and that piece are two different pieces of material. So you'll see on the drawing, the lines are going in different directions to indicate that it's not the same piece of material, yeah? If this was made out of a solid cast piece of plastic, be all the same material, then those cross-hatching lines would all be the same, in the same direction, okay? And then the cross-hatching on this small bit here, because we've only got two choices of direction, they can go that way or they can go that way. When you need another choice, you make your lines closer together, all right? So the drawing for that one's just here. So these drawings, these lines here, are closer together, all right? Now when we put the lid on, okay, when we put the lid on this box, we've got another thing to add. So I was lazy when I did this drawing, I didn't put the handle on. All right, so again, we've got a pictorial view, nice pretty 3D view of it in isometric or oblique or whatever you're drawing it in, okay? Then again, we're slicing it through on the bandsaw, but we're also slicing the lid, all right? So we're starting off with a rectangle, and it was the same as before. You can still see the thickness of those two pieces there, and the thickness of the base. And now, you can see the thickness of the lid as well on top, and the little push fit bit underneath, all right? So the whole purpose of a cross-sectional view is to show all the separate pieces and how they fit together, okay? So for your lighting, it's going to show how your glass fits into the frame. If it's all cast in plastic, if it's all one piece, it will show that it's all one piece. It helps show how it's made. For your shelters, it will show how the frame fits with the cloth bits, how the frame works. If you've got a piece of the frame that collapses, you might want to not draw the whole thing as a cross-sectional. You might want to just draw a little bit of it just to show the inside of the collapsing bit, yeah, to show how it works, all right? And with yours, it's going to show the thickness of the material, to show that there's really big space inside there to fit the workings. And also it'll show where you attach things on, because workings aren't kind of in an electronic piece, aren't just rattling around inside, they get screwed to the inside, yeah? So it shows those details, all right? So the purpose of a cross-sectional drawing is to show everybody how your design works. Because it's all very well looking at a pretty outside picture, but nobody knows what's going on inside, okay? And so around the side of that, you're also going to write your notes about materials, okay? So if I click over to a Google Plus community here, so I'm just going to choose the level 2 one. Okay, there's a couple of things on everybody's community, all right? The level 1, the level 2, and the level 3 are all the same. I've put that presentation that we've just been looking at, right, there's not a lot of pages on it, all right? I've put that there. There is also that, which is kind of similar to what we've just been looking at, just drawn a little better, all right? There's also that. This takes you to a folder of different cross-sectional drawings. And there's also this materials research one, all right? Because in order to write the notes around here, this part of the frame is made out of aluminium. It's good for the job because this part is made of plastic instead of glass. I've made that decision because, all right, you need to find out that materials research information. You need to find out why materials are good for the job, why they wouldn't be good for the job, all right? I have made the frame to support my lamp out of stainless steel. I've made it out of stainless steel because it's in a kitchen area and there's going to be lots of steam and I don't want it to rust. All right, so you need to know those materials qualities so that you can write them around your design. You can't do that without finding out the information first with a bit of research. So on that Google drawing, there are some questions for information you can find out. So you can either answer the questions directly on the drawing, or you can start yourself a table and you can just refer to it when you're writing your notes, okay? The table and the information can be a copy and paste. You can find information, but then you have to use that information on your design, all right? I've chosen this because, okay? Not just a label, wood, glass, all right? I need to know specific material, what kind of wood, what kind of metal, and I need to know why you've chosen it. And you can only do that with a bit of research, okay? So everybody is working on cross-sectional views. And if you get stuck with how things go together, don't just sit there like a numpty, put your hand up, I can help. And you also need the material stuff, all right? Okay?